this is the moment we have to turn the ship around. And I think people are starting to understand we got to get on and turn it together.
And here's the funny part about it is that their playbook is never varied from, right? They say these things as absurd as it is. They're completely tone deaf because everybody around them is saying, oh, wait, what? And they say it anyway. They don't have a plan B. Right. And this is kind of the beauty of what happened with Mr. Trump is the 4 years that he occupied that space so screwed up the plan that the playbook is still being followed and none of it makes sense. So it's actually a wonderful thing. It doesn't matter if they try and cheat. It doesn't make a damn bit of difference. Mr. Trump will be restored as that president, irrespective of the elections themselves.
Hey friends, welcome back. Thank you so very much for tuning in. It's Sean from SGT Report with my attorney friend Todd Callender and Major Mike Gary. The deep state has crossed the Rubicon and now there is no turning back. And the fact that we are all wide awake leaves them with one very big problem: how to retain power in the face of total revolt. Before we start, friends, just a quick word about our sponsor. Friends, are you looking for high-quality medications at affordable prices? Look no further than QuickRxStore.com, which offers a wide range of generic medications, including their most popular product, fenbendazole, which is remarkable at treating parasitic infections. Also, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, and other life-saving medications. With generics, customers can save 70% or more compared to brand name medications. But that's not all. Listeners can use coupon code SAVE10 at checkout to get a 10% discount on their order. Plus, QuickRxStore.com provides swift express shipping, ensuring medications reach customers quickly and discreetly. The packaging is designed for your privacy, and the customer support team is always ready to assist. At QuickRxStore.com, the priority is the health and well-being of customers by offering premium quality medications. Visit QuickRxStore.com today and experience the difference. And don't forget to use that coupon code SAVE10 for a 10% discount. That's QuickRxStore.com, your trusted source for affordable generic meds. The link is below. Hey friends, thank you so very much for tuning in and welcome back. It's Sean from SGT Report. Amidst the Great Awakening, the apocalypse is real and the line has been drawn, friends, thanks to that kangaroo court in New York convicting Donald J. Trump of non-crimes as Jan 6ers rot in prison due to lawfare, as military members get kicked out of the military for refusing to take the bioweapon. DJT convicted in a kangaroo court due to lawfare. I'll welcome my guests, a new guest, retired Major Mike Gary. Welcome, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Sean. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks for being here. And Todd Callender, welcome back, sir.
Always a pleasure. Happy Friday to you, Sean. It's a dire subject, but we're here to parse it. And I'm just happy to be here with you and Mike.
Well, thanks for coming on, guys. And Dr. Lee will join us in another couple of weeks. I want to do a screen share here and just remind folks.
Sir.
So they crossed the Rubicon by stealing an election in 2020, and they're hell-bent on stealing the election in 2024. They'd like to put Donald J. Trump in prison, or now the pretense that they're going to try to use is that because he's a convicted felon, his name should be removed from ballots, and they're going to cause absolute chaos. That's best case scenario, maybe at this point. We'll get my guests' comment on that in just one second. But I want to remind people that what's happening right now, the chaos globally, was all designed to happen in 2016 under Hillary Clinton. But to their surprise, Donald J. Trump won the election. So what you're about to hear right now from, what's her name, Norah O'Donnell, I believe, from the Mockingbird Mainstream Media News. Well, this is what they wanted to do in 2016, but they're doing it now in 2024 under puppet pedo Joe Biden.
Tonight, CBS News has learned that President Biden has quietly given the go-ahead for Ukraine to launch limited airstrikes with U.S. weapons inside Russia. Ukraine may use the weapons on the Russian side of the border near the besieged Ukrainian city of Kharkiv against concentrations of Russian troops, artillery, and planes. This is a reversal of the president's previous ban on such actions, and it could escalate tensions with the Kremlin.
All right. I actually would like Mike to comment on this. What say you? This is absolute insanity, because how would Donald J. Trump or any rightfully wired president react if Russia had implemented a coup in Mexico and had troops on the border of Texas ready to invade. Mike, what say you?
Well, thank you, Sean. I appreciate it. I still have one foot in. I'm a traditional Army reservist, and I was pushed out from the full-time force. So anything I say today, I am representing the Truth for Health Foundation and not the military or the DoD in any way. So first of all, I just think it's egregious that this was done on the same day that President Trump received his 34 counts of being guilty in New York. So this was done in a way that people aren't aware of it. Most of Americans probably aren't even aware of it. And I think it's a shame that we're escalating World War III, as some people like to refer to it as.
Yeah, a shame to say the least. We have a president, and he's a puppet. He was installed in a coup, but this man is so weak, he will not prevent or stop Israel from slaughtering Gazans endlessly. They continue to arm Israel. He makes threats that they need to stop, and they don't stop, and then nothing changes. Meanwhile, they're escalating us right into World War III in Ukraine. And Todd, if cooler minds don't prevail, we're dead. And by the way, in that clip I just shared from my Twitter feed, listen to this, Todd. I wrote this.
Yeah.
When I shared that Norah O'Donnell clip via Twitter, I wrote this. They stole an election in 2020, and now here we sit. This was their plan in 2016 under Hillary's totalitarian rule, but Trump got in. The question is, will Putin remain patient until the U.S. election? I think he will. However, if they steal another one, nothing will be able to stop World War III.
Yeah, well, you're right about that. So let's go back in history a little bit. Number one, they tried to get Putin to go nuclear with some tactical weapons that they were threatening in Ukraine. The Ukrainians were shelling their own Chernobyl, trying to cause a nuclear incident. Our government tried to bait Iran into a nuclear exchange, and now the U.S. has authorized, sending weaponry and bombing inside the borders of Russia. What I'm trying to say to you is they will do anything they can to start a nuclear exchange. Why? Because they've all been caught in the middle of a democide. They have been caught trying to kill humanity, and now they've got to cover their tracks or they shall hang. They'll do anything in their power to kick off a nuclear war. And I do agree with you. Vladimir Putin, I think he knows this. He understands this, as do the Persians. They understand this, and they're not going to give it to him. I don't even think Kim Jong-un will give it to him. However, I think the Israelis, they're their own kettle of fish, and I think they're the wild card here.
We've been talking for a long time. I consider us friends. You and Dr. Leave Lead have been coming on the show for how long? More than a year? 2 years?
I would say 3, probably 3.
Well, I've always said for more than a decade now doing this, that at this point in human history, it's we the people versus the criminal banksters. But now what has really slipped into the parlance, and people are openly talking about it, is Zionism, the Zionist state, and Rothschild Zionism that wants war after war after war after war after war and profits from every single war with their fiat death machines. And now we're sitting in $35 trillion in debt, with the government projecting $52 trillion in debt by 2033. We're not going to make it that far. So what happens if they steal another election? What would your game plan be? What would you even tell our listeners who deeply care about their nation but hate the criminal government if these people steal another election in November?
Well, I don't think it's going to matter. Right? Let me start with the whole Zionist thing. I don't want people to confuse Zionism necessarily with Israel itself or Jewish people. There are distinctions here that have to be drawn, right? Because one does not necessarily translate into the other or the others. And I think there is culpability with the Zionists. I think there will continue to be culpability with the Zionists, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are controlling the money supply, is in my understanding, directly or indirectly. That's the way that works. And I don't think it matters, Sean, what happens if they try and steal the election in November, because people aren't going to put up with it. We have just seen, it's just been demonstrated to us yesterday, that there is no such thing as law. All of our constitutional rights were suspended on 13 March 2020. All of our human rights were suspended the following day with a declaration of a public health emergency. They have not come back. And now what we see is a judge in New York who understands the paradigm that there is no law. And so he just makes it up, says, well, if he's been bad, just convict the guy for something, and that'll be fine. You don't have to prove the elements of the crime anymore. You don't have to prove anything. Just Say he's a bad guy. And by the way, we're going to put him in jail. The point of which is that in normal circumstances, the appellate court would probably overrule this sua sponte immediately and go, that is not law. That is not how this works. However, we're in a new paradigm because there is no such thing as law anymore, because all of our rights, constitutional and human, were revoked and they are not coming back. And so what you have is an unbridled judiciary, an unbridled administration, an unbridled Congress who passes laws through the Federal Register without actually voting on them. It's absurd. The whole thing is absolutely absurd. And if we don't undo this, we don't take it back, there is nothing stopping them. They will literally line people up against the wall and shoot them dead because they've given themselves the authority to do that. So come November, I think humanity is understanding this paradigm. It doesn't matter if they try and cheat. It doesn't make a damn bit of difference. Mr. Trump will be restored as that president, irrespective of the elections themselves.
You know, that is the way it has to go. And Mike, you can comment on that. How do we do that lawfully and peacefully when we know even if he's allowed to win, or I should say, even if it's overwhelming their ability to fraudulently steal it, they will unleash BLM and Antifa on the streets, and God forbid UN troops, all the military-aged young men that Biden has flown in and allowed to come into the country.
Yeah, I think it's those illegal invaders that have really woke the American people up, because I see it up here in the Northeast where I live. That alone has, you know, brought people the awareness that they need at this moment. And with everything that Todd had said, essentially suspending the Constitution for these emergency powers, I think people are aware of that now, that that's what happened during COVID. Whether you were for the shot or against the shot, your rights were suspended. And with the illegal invaders, now people are talking about this. I even see the older crowd of people, which I would generally say baby boomers and up, who tend to go along with everything the government says because they're the generations that have trust in their government. They're talking about the illegal invaders. They're extremely concerned in this area with all the Chinese buying up all the farmland, selling the illegal triad marijuana up here. So this thing has woke people up. So what do we do about it? Well, I have a few examples locally that we did last year. We challenged this local school board where we caught them grooming a child, changing the sex of the name to the opposite sex. That's how they were going to start. Well, we caught them. We challenged the school board. And that energy, instead of flipping the school board from liberals to Republicans, that energy that we garnered over a 6-month period of challenge that school board, we actually flipped the town board. It was like, I would say probably 70% Democrat to it's the opposite now, 70% Republican.
Wow.
So that's where that energy locally got. So this is what people are going to have to do. And I think, and I know this is going to sound counterintuitive, but I am encouraged by what happened yesterday. Yes, it's the law falling apart. But now we all are aware of it at the same time. This is the shared suffering that we all needed to come to so we can all tackle this problem. So I'm encouraged by this. So that's what we can
all see it. And look, that's not a Q 17th letter of the alphabet thing. This is just the fact of the matter. We can all see it. And the normies had to be awoken. And so many of them are now. And even Democrats are balking at this. A lot of Democrats are posting on Twitter and saying, I'm done. I'm done. I'm voting for Trump in 2024, because if they can get Trump, they can get anybody. And by the way, I want to back you up, Todd. You had mentioned their plans to essentially line us up and just shoot us all if they take control. Now, this is on the record. Guys, spread this wide, because I bet your normie neighbors don't know this. This is on the record, thanks to Rathwell, the FBI infiltrator of the Weather Underground, who in the 70s has these people on tape saying, once they take control of the U.S. government and usher in their communist ways, those of us who can't be re-educated in the camps will have to be executed. Okay? That's on the record. And by the way, Bill Ayers, part of the Weather Underground, was Obama, a.k.a. Barry Soetoro's mentor.
That's right.
So this is all very real, Todd.
And an advisor to Obama. And they already tried it. We don't have to guess whether that's their intention. They already tried it with compulsory shots. Mike was one of the victims, right? They tried to say Lloyd Austin authorized the use of force and said, hey, we're going to hold you down and give you these damn shots. We know those shots are deadly. Lloyd Austin knew the shots were deadly. How? Because we freaking told him there's antifreeze in the shots. And by the way, the mRNA killed all the test subjects. He knew damn well. And that was before the order was issued, because we served him and sued him before the order was issued with a temporary restraining order. This was done intentionally. They tried to kill our own. He tried to frag and did frag his own military. That's just the reality. People don't want to hear it. It freaking happened.
No, it did happen. It's continuing to happen because they haven't pulled this damn thing. It is a bioweapon, and Pfizer's documents that they wanted to bury for 75 years, vet that out. It is now proven. We know it. And that's just one more reason we know our government is hopelessly criminal. And by the way, they're working with Moderna to fund a new bird flu mRNA vaccine. We'll talk about that in just one second. But Michael, your thoughts on any of that, because you paid a heavy price for resisting the bioweapon.
Well, I experienced it, the full weight of it. And that's why right now I'm kind of encouraged by what has happened recently with all these lawsuits against Trump, because people are finally aware that the FBI going after, pro-life demonstrators, or school board, parents going to school boards and stuff like that. They know now that it's real. And then now they're accepting of us in the military that were totally destroyed, and the nurses, doctors, EMS, and all these other fields that were totally run over, whether it was administrative or legally, we were totally run over, just like we're seeing play out in front of the whole nation with Donald Trump. That's what the divine thing of this is. We're seeing it in all at the same time. But with the military, it was obvious. Yes, Todd, and I thank you, Todd. I'm so honored to be on this with you, as you're like one of the first, maybe the first lawyer that actually stood up to protect the military. And Dr. Elizabeth Vliet was like one of the first ones to actually grab a hold of us military whistleblowers. And we simply brought forth the VAERS data, which is protected communications. All right, that is the National Signaling Program, which hung on my wall. So when I worked full time, I had it hanging right on my wall, and everybody could see the numbers as they built up over time. And then plus we made all these exceptions for people after they got the shots. It was permissible to miss a day, 2 weeks of work if the shot made you that sick. I had to constantly change training events because I was missing people after their shots. We saw this damage in real time, and there was a tremendous amount of heart problems, but the medical people wouldn't accept this as being towards the shot. I just simply was one of those people that couldn't handle it anymore and pointed it out by submitting VAERS data through what was supposed to be my competent chain of command. And then eventually I had to go through the IG because my chain of command wasn't competent, and then eventually to Ron Johnson's office. So these are the steps that have all failed. And now we're seeing this as a nation, every step of the justice system fail, like I experienced in the military.
Well, if there's good news in any of this, and I just had a gripping conversation with Mark Atwood, it's that there is a shift. There seems to be a shift in human consciousness, because the Japanese people are now marching in the streets. They're demanding justice for the damage and deaths caused by the bioweapon. People are waking up in droves. And previously, where the enemies of humanity were like the wizard in The Wizard of Oz, they hid behind a curtain. They were sort of safe cloaked in that curtain in the dark. But now we can all see them. We can point directly at who they are. Bill Gates, George Soros, the Rockefeller family, the Rothschild family, Barack Obama, aka Barry Soetoro, Joseph the pedo Biden. I mean, we can point Hillary Clinton, the Clintons, the Clinton body count. Humanity is waking up in droves, and we can never, ever forget what they did to us, guys. Never forget what they did with these lockdowns and the pandemic and the bioweapon masquerading as a vaccine, killing people, and the propaganda and the nonsense and the targeting of our children. I mean, look at this. You believe that people fell for this? This is absolute insanity. And now they want to sell us on the bird flu and roll out a bird flu vaccine, Todd? I mean, it's just beyond
right, for the bird flu that they created to make people
gain of
sick.
function. That's right.
We have it all. We have all of their patents. We have all of their scientific papers. Yeah, that's exactly how it works. It's the rope-a-dope, Hegelian dialectic. And let us not forget, ordo ab chao. Any chaos will do just fine, Sean. It doesn't matter. They just simply want to take advantage of that chaos to bring in their own solutions. Just what they said, right? You create the problem and then you solve it with whatever it is that's going to kill as many people. By the way, I'm going to turn these glasses. You know the movie They Live? You could actually see the demons. That
you're not going to see them.
That's
on
what
this
they are.
call.
They are demons. That's what they are. I mean, and this is the other cool part, kind of to Mike's point, in terms of being able to recognize all this for what it is. One beautiful part of this is I see people finding their relationship with God. Mm-hmm. That they actually finally see this for what it is. This is a spiritual war. It's a good versus bad. And they're taking the small risk. It doesn't cost you anything to open that door and talk to God. And I find that to be tremendously rewarding. And I think that's our mission here, really, at the end of the day.
No, I agree. And it buoys my spirit to look, you guys are both optimistic about this. So is Mark Atwood, and his co-author of his new book, Abby. Everybody's really optimistic about this because what is becoming abundantly clear is that the controllers of this world are morally and spiritually bankrupt. And if you listen to people like johnkerry,
evil,
they have nothing to sell except anti-human policies.
That's right.
They literally are trying to make the case now that farming needs to be shut down to save Mother Earth, which means we all die. And they're able to do that. They're openly saying it now, Todd.
And here's the funny part about it, is that their playbook is never varied from, right? They say these things, as absurd as it is, they're completely tone deaf because everybody around them is saying, oh, wait, what? And they say it anyway. They don't have a plan B, right? And this is kind of the beauty of what happened with Mr. Trump, is the 4 years that he occupied that space so screwed up the plan that the playbook is still being followed and none of it makes sense. So it's actually a wonderful thing. Every time johnkerry or any of the rest of these gangsters run their mouths, it's fabulous because they just look absurd.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about the kangaroo court ruling and that judge literally changing law to tell the jury they don't have to be unanimous. They're not sure what crime he committed. Just make sure that you understand he committed a crime, whatever you think that was.
So it's reverse jury nullification. It's the opposite.
And the beautiful thing is it's serving to wake people up who recognize the many, many crimes, the treason of Joe Biden and his family, and the crimes of his son, Hunter Biden, and the crimes of Barack Obama, and the crimes of Victoria Nuland. I mean, look, we can all see it. The crimes of the Clintons, they're never prosecuted, much less persecuted by the Republicans, and maybe they ought to be, and maybe that is what will happen moving forward. I don't know. Certainly that's not going to happen if it's left up to the rhinos. But since we know they're preparing another bioweapon under the guise of the bird flu, I wanted to ask you about this clip you sent me, Todd. It's from essentially an Indian scientist. That's how I know him. Somebody else posted this, but the DARPA Pandemic Assassination Program. Do you want to set this up? I don't have it queued up except for at the beginning. Do you want me to just play it?
Let me just say thank you for that. By the way, I wanted people to understand that it's not one vector of death. The attack that was on Mike in the military was one of many different ways. We've talked about it before with Dr. Vliet, for instance, the 5G and all the other kinds of things. And here you've got a senior government advisor on so many levels, Professor Giordano, who also wrote papers about the super soldier program, meaning genetically modifying soldiers so that the army would have their own slaves, their vax slaves. This is the guy, because he's got all the knowledge and he kind of brags about it. He does brag about it. And he gives these lectures telling everybody the whole truth, which is, oh, we have the ability to control anything and everything. And I think if you look at this from that lens, this is not new, right? This goes back, I think, a decade when he's talking about that. And then you see the behavior of these people in DC that run their mouths saying these weird things that nobody in their right mind would say. Just think back to Professor Giordano and hear what he has to say right now. I mean, he says it. It's right there.
Oh, that's his name? Giordano? Okay, let me just play that.
Professor Giordano, Georgetown University. This guy's really famous.
All right, let's play just a bit of this.
I want to make people sick. And what I do here is the virus is not necessarily the bug. The virus is what I put over the internet. Let me show you how I can crash a system pretty easily. I affect key individuals here, here, and here. And then I take another community in the back of the room. I affect key individuals there. And then I take another community. I affect key individuals there. And what I tell you it's going to do is it's going to produce paranoia, anxiety, and sleeplessness. What I've just done is I've recruited every paranoid hypochondriac to think that they have whatever that is. I've used salient and sentinel cases, and I create essentially a legion of what's known as the worried well. They now flood emergency rooms. They flood their clinicians. The CDC responds back.
Listen to Agent Smith.
Agent Smith. All right, I interviewed that guy once. The alien scientist is what he used to go by. I enjoy some of his material. And so here's the thing. That guy reminds me of an NFL football coach, right? But he's really excited about rolling out something very human. Okay.
Yes.
They're so sick, Todd.
And by the way, this is nothing. When you listen to this guy, Giordano, I mean, he tells you in detail the abilities that they have that he helped invent that effectively takes over people's minds, and that technology is already in place. He talks about nanobots, even the ones that come out of the sky and infect your lungs. They drill in through the blood-brain barrier. This is the guy. Don't believe me. Listen to him. He is an active advisor to our government, and he's the guy that implemented this stuff. You can hear it from the horse's mouth right there. And he's unapologetic. And when I get my day in court and I sue the federal government for these things, because I am going to do a global class action lawsuit, I'm going to call him onto the stand and I'm going to say, Professor Giordano, here's what you said in this clip. Let's watch it together. Now, maybe you can explain to me what I'm missing, but didn't you just say that you have the ability to kill people and control them with the viruses that you infected them with? Infected meaning past tense. Is that so? I mean, and it goes on for hours, hours and hours. And they're so full of hubris and they're so proud of what it is they've done. That's the part that blows my mind.
Yeah. Well, Todd, you know what he's confessing to in that clip is essentially a mind virus, a psyop.
Yes.
Right? And that's exactly what Google is guilty of, the mind virus. And I don't know if you saw any of the testimony in the Texas state legislature from my friend, Google whistleblower, who was on Project Veritas, Zach Voorhees. It was a master's class, and these people hung on his every word, outlining exactly what Google does and has done and did in the past and intends to do in this election, to steal the election, to rig the election. And it was so effective. His testimony was so powerful. The Texas state legislature has now announced that they are going to investigate Google for election interference. So I think we're at a tipping point. I really do. We're damn near a tipping point here.
Yeah, we are. My concern is whether or not we can keep it civil. Can we overcome all of this peacefully? And I think it's really important. And it depends on the guys carrying badges and guns. Yeah. Right. Again, there is no law without law enforcement. So when these judges make up law, that means that just like Mike in the military said, that's an illegal order, I'm not following it. The cops have that same ability to say, hey, that's not constitutional. Like Sheriff in Albuquerque, who said, I don't agree with your public health emergency to steal people's guns. He said, no, we're not doing that. Mm-hmm. And this is the point. So our country and the salvation of it actually boils down to who is going to enforce these crazy laws, if anybody. And my belief is that law enforcement is on deck and they get it and they are not going to the program. And I'd be surprised if any of them actually took Mr. Trump to jail at all. They may just say, no, we're not doing that. Yeah. They have the power to opt out.
Guys, apologies for this real quick break. In a word about our sponsor. Gold has been on an epic, nearly unstoppable run. It's happening. Central banks are ditching the dollar and U.S. treasuries and buying more gold. The good news? It's predicted that gold will go up a lot more. UBS has even predicted a $5,000 per ounce gold price. And Noble Gold Investments phone has been ringing nonstop. Everybody wants to protect their retirement with gold, and you can do the same. Now, it should be said that there are no investment guarantees. Do your own due diligence, but Noble Gold Investments can help you secure gold to protect your future. From the first day you call Noble Gold Investments, you'll work with a dedicated all-American expert. So whether you're a beginner or an experienced investor, Noble Gold Investments will make sure you get all the help you need. But that's not all. This month, Noble Gold Investments will give you a free 1/4 ounce gold standard coin if you open a qualified account. So go to noblegoldinvestments.com right now. That's noblegoldinvestments.com, or call them directly at 877-646-5347. You'll be glad you did. Yeah, and that takes me to the next topic, and I wanted Mike's thoughts on this. So I'm really curious to hear what the temperature is of current and former military in Mike's view, because there's not going to be violence from our side because we're no longer operating in a fear state. When people are no longer fearful, like former Green Beret Ivan Raiklin, they go to the belly of the beast and they engage with these people. And he talks about his deep state hit list and using the same tactics they used against Roger Stone and others against these people themselves, because again, they've crossed the Rubicon. They set the precedent. So God help them when the chickens come home to roost. I don't have this queued up, but I know everything in this 20-minute exchange is spot on. I'll play just a minute of it.
Why you do it?
I want to guarantee Elon Musk discloses the direct messages for the mother of all Twitter files so that the entire country can see what just occurred to them, from starting from the illegal spying operation, the corrupt DOJ and FBI. The raid on Mar-a-Lago was to seize the evidence that was declassified by Donald Trump in the last few hours of his first term, which involved the Crossfire Hurricane details, which would list all the names that I've mentioned so far, whether it was Lisa Page, who was Andy McCabe's chief counsel at the time, along with Peter Strzok, a guy by the name of Joseph Pientka III, who is currently the number 3 individual at the San Francisco field office. So you have the special agent in charge, you have a ASAC, assistant special agents in charge, and then you have the ASAC for counterintelligence. That guy is a guy by the name of Joseph Pientka III, who was the second agent that was deployed to interview General Flynn on January 24th, 2017, in order to get General Flynn fired or to get him to lie.
Okay, so the deep state snakes, the documentation is all there. Ivan's got it all, so do others, but
he's got it
in the
all.
belly of the beast, warning them what's coming for them. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. I have more to say, but I'll shut up for now. Michael, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, first of all, I really appreciate all the work that Ivan has done. He has sat through numerous testimonies in those committee hearings. So it's awesome that he's done that. And he does have the information. That is 20 minutes of power-packed information. And he eventually gets to the point where he says, we're going to do it through the sheriffs. Well, like we were talking about earlier. And he mentions a number of 80 to 100,000 of us that either had to leave the military early or were fired or some version of that because of the vax mandates, that would be more than helpful in participants in helping the sheriffs. They could deputize us. So I think that's a great idea that should be looked into. Now, the current state of the military is this: shame. It's shame. Okay, because at this point, everybody knows, especially after AstraZeneca got pulled off the world market, which is essentially the same as the J&J, right? Which everybody knew that one went on, came off, went on, came off, went on. And now everybody's looking around at Pfizer, Moderna, knowing that there's huge issues with those vaccines, right? So everybody kind of knows, even though they won't admit it, but there's shame and regret. So everything that's transpired in the military is regrettable. All right, because the chain of command decided to follow this illegal mandate order,
fragging,
and fully support it, just like we see these judges holding gag orders and performing all these other unorthodox or illegal actions. Well, all this stuff happened in the military too, and you have all these soldiers suffering, knowing that this was wrong. So we have 3 years of the military sitting here knowing it's wrong. So how has this hurt? Okay, my family, I have 4 children, and I have 2 that are right around military age. After what's happened to me and my family, okay, because my wife has been solidly with me through this whole thing, I have 2 children that could have been in the military, but they will never go in the military. Okay. And guess what? They have friends. I have friends. I have church. I have peer groups. They have peer groups. And guess what? That's how the word gets out that the military is corrupt and that they hurt. For example, my children talking to their friends. Well, my father was hurt. He lost everything. He's lost his full-time benefits, and who knows if he gets to keep his part-time benefits, right? And I've had to say no to my children because I simply don't have the finances to allow them to do all these things. That's a lot of hurt over 3 years. So do you think we're selling the military as a viable source for a job? No, right? And this has happened if you take that 80 to 100,000 figure that Ivan references. And guess what? I was a generational military family.
Mm.
My grandfather was at Pearl Harbor when it was bombed.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle was Special Forces Vietnam. It's over. And that's what's happened. That's what the Americans or the civilians are just now, with what's going on with Trump, starting to realize that these long-standing institutions are over. They're done because they so violated things. I could go on and on and on with all the violations that have happened against me, but we're seeing it play out with Trump. And this is why I'm encouraged that this is the moment we have to turn the ship around. And I think people are starting to understand we got to get on and turn it together.
Yeah, no, we have to. And we appreciate your service. And, I would just share that my great-grandfather, Gerald, was a tank captain in World War II, and he would never talk about it. And as a little kid, I was interested in it. You're a little kid, you ask dumb questions like, did you kill anybody? He would never talk about it. But these veterans who fought for what they believed to be a great country, and it was certainly a lot greater then than it is now. They must be rolling in their graves, just absolutely rolling in their graves. And same with the founding fathers, because this is really shocking. For those who don't know, Attorney General Merrick Garland personally approved the raid on Mar-a-Lago in 2022. Today, we all know that he authorized deadly force. Deadly force. They wanted Trump dead so bad that they were hoping
to frag him.
That might be the result of the raid, Todd.
Yeah, exactly. Well, how is it different? We got Lloyd Austin killing his own troops with intention. How is that any different when you see people get swatted all the time? The point of the exercise is to kill Mr. Trump. And so this is a point I keep trying to make, and I hope he listens. I hope others listen, that he was fooled into declaring a national emergency on 13 March 2020. And it, like the Congress had to rescind the order that Mr. Austin made as it related to the shots, President Trump needs to rescind the declaration of a national emergency, because without that, none of the other dominoes could have fallen. Rescission is not new in the law. And the reality is, without that declaration, our country would still be in regular operation. The courts would still work. As corrupt as our Congress is, it would still function. People would have faith in the systems themselves. And what Mike is saying is that the esprit de corps, the trust in leadership is gone. So when Tedros Adhanom gives an order to Lloyd Austin, go eradicate that virus inside of all these people in the United States of America, go take them out. Who's going to enforce that? Right? The US DOD was supposed to be Tedros Adhanom's, the world dictator's enforcement, his own personal mercenaries. And now that's gone. The DOD, the troops aren't going to freaking do it because there is no trust in leadership, because they know they've been fragged. So what I want to have happen is the line people carrying a badge and gun, you got to understand your superiors, including Mr. Garland himself, they don't even have oaths of office. Who are they serving? They're serving themselves. Every order issued by those people is void ab initio per statute. Look it up yourself. 5 USC 3331 3332. And then it's up to you to do like Mike and say, I'm not following an illegal order. You don't have any authority to issue that order. That's how we take our country back. But I think it starts with Mr. Trump saying, I was fooled. I am vitiating the declaration of a national emergency because it was predicated upon fraud. And those people who ill-advised me and knew better will have to go to jail. And he can upset this whole thing and turn it around.
The other thing I just want to add as it relates to treachery coming from Washington, D.C.
Treachery.
is there's some amazing things happening that are even surprising me. A guy who has been talking about geoengineering, aka chemtrails, for more than a decade. Tennessee just banned geoengineering in the state. They banned chemtrails. And now people are reporting since that became law, there's no chemtrails in Tennessee. So people are waking up in droves. I want to play one more clip, but Michael, do you have any comment on anything there? I don't want to leave you out.
Yes, I do. People need to, if they want to get involved and do something, go find that Tennessee bill and duplicate it in your state.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a thing. That's somehow you can be active in solving this problem, writing bills. Okay, and I was just made aware of a 16-year-old boy that had wrote a bill in West Virginia. And his bill was, if you can teach evolution in the schools, why can't you teach creation?
Creationism, yeah.
And so he wrote the bill and it went forward. So you can now
Cool.
teach creationism in West Virginia. That's another
Cool.
bill that could be duplicated across the nation. So there's some good ideas. That's a way to be involved in solving this.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, thanks for that. That's a great idea. And I just want to round out the conversation by playing this clip, which will spark a little bit more conversation. People are fed up. People watched Trump's persecution. We've been tracking it for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. I mean, it's just been nonstop since this pedophile seized power. And essentially, he's just a puppet of Barack Obama and the string pullers, Soros above them. People have had quite enough.
I think it's a little ridiculous that in a city where you won't lock up a common criminal, you're going to put a guy who's running for president through all this all this crap where, months before he's running for president, it just so happened to occur to you that maybe he committed some crimes. I didn't vote for him the past 2 elections, I'll be honest. And when I say I'm a supporter, I'm somebody who doesn't support every single thing he says or even does. But at this point, they got me to a place where I will pull the lever for this guy because, what they're doing to him is disgusting. And I think the person we have in office right now is incompetent.
They've taken it too far to where they've awakened independent minds like yourself.
Sure. I think this backfired on them completely because I think they're kind of crapping their pants a little bit because this has made him more appealing to someone like me and even people who I talk to on a daily basis who may not even like him as a person, but the idea of him being perhaps thrown in jail would be crazy. Like, what kind of country is this?
Okay, so let's just talk about the optics of November. I mean, the optics are so clear with these rallies and the people and the reaction to this kangaroo court ruling. People are outraged. It's my understanding that Trump's poll numbers went up 6%. It'll probably be higher than that. The demon rats and rhinos own duplicity, hypocrisy, and treachery will be their downfall because we can all see it now. I'm coming back to you guys to take it from there.
Can I just add this? Okay, like Mike did in the military, and they papered the hell out of the DOD with inspector general complaints and things of that nature. We created a lot of those templates. We've done it again. 5 small stones. Number 5. If you want to get involved in this election and solve it, you can download a template. It's a county court filing. You file it with your judge to say, hey, I want law enforcement officers and I want paper ballots. There's only 3,000 something counties. We only need 3,000 people to file these things. And we take back our country locally. Why? Because elections are local. So if you want to get involved, it doesn't cost you anything. A filing fee in county court is probably $10 or something like that. Get off your couch and go do something.
Absolutely. Get off your couch, stand on your feet, or die on your knees. Michael, we're going to put this up here.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to show it here in just 1 second. Well, okay, I'll show it now, and then we'll come back to Michael because is this it right here? Is this correct?
Yes, that's right. It says you can action things. It's right there. So you can download all kinds of templates. We've made them for the last 3 or 4 years. And it's really simple. We give instructions how you do it. We've already drafted the complaint. All you got to do is fill in a couple of details. Who are you and what county are you in? The evidence is already presented. All you got to do is file it. And then ideally, the judge will give you a court date. It's actually a temporary restraining order like we did when we sued Lloyd Austin because it's an ex-parte proceeding. You can go for the judge and say, hey, here's what I'm worried about. Look what happened to Mr. Trump. And you know what? We aren't going to win on all of them in all the counties. But if you look at how many of those counties were red in the last election for Mr. Trump, it's probably 99% of them. The power rests in the county. It really, truly does. You can do this. Ladies and gentlemen, download it. It doesn't cost you anything. Please, you can do this.
Michael, I wanted to ask your thoughts here before we wrap this up about November. So it's abundantly clear now. We know for a fact they stole the election in 2020. It was a coup. A coup by nature means we're at war with our own government. What is to stop these people at this point? They cannot let there be a fair and free election. They cannot let Donald J. Trump in. So how do you see this thing playing out? And if they try to suspend the election or issue martial law because suddenly these UN young men troops have been activated, I mean, God knows they've got a lot of cards they can play. How do you see this playing out? Best case scenario, worst case scenario, and then what's the response from patriots if we have a worst case scenario?
Well, I'd like to say this. I've been called a conspiracy theorist a lot over the last 3 years. That's partially how I was fired out of the military. So when I speak with people, okay, and we're not talking just patriots, the common person, all right, a lot of times I will say, well, we're in the year of decision, and that will lead me to saying, if we have an election. And I'm going to tell you, the people are accepting of that idea. That is not conspiracy theory. So I've tried it out a lot with a lot of different people, and nobody pushes back against that. So people are well aware that we may not have an election. That is like a majority of thought out there, even up here in the deep blue Northeast. Okay, so I think the awareness of that sets us up good. However, we got to stay on the initiative. Now, with the fail of yesterday, right, because that's ultimately a fail for them, because we're seeing Trump raised record dollars in 24 hours. We're seeing a bunch of Hollywood types come out, speak out for Trump. It's just on and on and on. There's so much support of Trump after this thing that happened yesterday that they are going to have to pull more and more obscene things out of their hat. For example, another pandemic, which they've tried this all year long with the masks, but it just does. Nobody wants to participate anymore. So that's good. That's awesome. But however, this leads them to having to do more and more dangerous things. And I think as long as we can stay ahead of it with the awareness factor, it will make it impossible for them to do. I'm not saying they won't try to attempt, but I am saying it will be hard for them to do, because ultimately it come down to the local officers to enforce, this illegal mandate. And the officer will again be tied. What do I do? Do I do the right thing, follow the law, or do I accept this illegal mandate? Mm-hmm. And I think they're going to attempt it, whether it's a plandemic again or a Green New Deal type event to stop all the geoengineering. Who knows what they're going to try to pull? But the awareness factor, we're here. We've arrived. The Great Awakening is upon us. So we just need to stay on the initiative like we're doing.
Yeah, and the line really has been drawn. You used the word obscene, and that's a great word. They need to do more and more obscene things, and that's what they're doing because they're desperate and they're losing the hearts and minds in the town square. They've lost the battle already, which is why they're behaving like tyrants. That's why they're using lawfare. And I just want to say, if they suspend the election for whatever reason, imagine how that plays out, guys. We would then have a
show up anyway.
President by dictate. He would no longer be the lawfully elected president, just like we're seeing in Ukraine, where Zelensky suspended the election. And several days ago, his lawful right to be president elapsed. It's over. It's done. So now he's a dictator in Ukraine. And the criminals in Washington, D.C. continue to talk about the Ukrainian democracy. We must protect Ukraine's democracy. They don't have a democracy. They certainly don't have a republic. And Zelensky is a dictator, just like Joe Biden would be if they suspend the election, Todd.
Well, that's exactly the point. That's where we're at. How is it any different? We have no law. That was demonstrated yesterday. And there is no law in Ukraine either, other than what the guy says it is. So we're here. We're absolutely here. And I will guarantee you this. Irrespective, if Joe Biden says we're not going to have elections, people are going to show up and vote anyway. They're going to go in droves, and they're going to write it out on a piece of paper and say, I want this guy. And then the government is going to be forced with a choice. Do we listen to the people or not? And who is it? The Romanian president, Ceausescu? Is that his name? Mm-hmm. How'd that work out for that dude?
Not well. Not well for he or his wife. The whole apparatus turned against him in about 6 hours. He was put on trial, and they were executed for their crimes.
Summary judgment.
Yeah, these
That's
things
what they're looking
turn
at.
on a dime, and the tidal wave is coming, and I think the Great Awakening is real.
And we're all armed, right? So you look at Ukraine, they disarm the people as dictators always do, so they can't fight back. This is a different kettle of fish. We are all armed, right? That we're not going to get pushed around.
Well, that's right. And a lot of these states, well, you know, Michael, you can speak to this. The states have national guards. We're not only all armed, the states that give a damn about the Constitution are well armed, and we can wage a defense against an onslaught of tyranny should they steal another election and try to install a dictator in chief, which is essentially what we already have, Michael, by the way.
Yeah, no, we are definitely headed towards some awkward situations. We've already kind of seen this a few times, like down in Texas, with Governor Abbott using the National Guard to guard his border, and then them talking about federalizing the Texas National Guard to take them away. So we're definitely headed towards some interesting situations, but this again with the awareness that everybody has, this is why you need to go research your laws and hold them to the letter of the law. We either going to follow the law or not, and I agree it's lawless now, but that doesn't mean we can't hold them to it, right? And that's what our constitutional, or for some of us who are oath bound, are supposed to do, hold to the letter of the law or the Constitution. And for everybody out there that's researching, if you found something good that helps, like a police officer or a sheriff, hand that information over to them. Educate them if you need to, or be supportive of them, because these are not going to be easy situations that a sheriff may find himself into. It's not easy to say, no, I'm not going to follow that mandate. But so you could at least show up as an audience. And so he's not standing there alone. We should not be standing alone on any constitutional matter anymore. We should be a group, a large voice together.
Yep. And we'll let the Constitution guide us. And even though the U.S. Supreme Court has thrown us under the bus with things like Obamacare and so many other crappy decisions, they did just rule in favor of Texas being able to round up, arrest, and deport illegals, as is Texas right under the law, because Texas is a sovereign state, and the federal government derives its power from the consent of the governed, which it is rapidly losing. And that is what will save us, is no longer complying with the criminality and treason coming out of DC, Todd.
Yep, that's it, brother. That's exactly the paradigm. It's over. It really, truly is. And what we have to do is keep our heads up and admit that, and keep the spirit alive. And by the way, it's not just the Constitution. The Constitution was born of God's word. Find God, trust in your faith, and the rest of it flows from there.
Yeah, I think God's got our back in a very big way here. Major Mike Gary, can you tell people, are you on Twitter? How can people follow you and keep in touch?
Yeah, well, they can follow me at the Truth for Health Foundation. I do whistleblower reports and faith over fear seminars with Dr. Elizabeth Vliet. So follow me over there at the Truth for Health Foundation. Okay, very good. And Five Small Stones, I will leave a link below. Todd, again, as always, thank you so much for what you do.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, man.
It's a joy. I'm just honored to be amongst you. God bless you both. God bless your audience. It's working, folks.
Yeah, God bless everybody listening. You're all red-blooded, fearing Americans, and you're the ones who are going to save our republic. Nobody else is coming. There's no hero on a white horse coming. But if we all stand together, our numbers vastly outnumber their numbers. Therefore, we will win. Our guests have been Major Mike Gary and, of course, my good friend, Attorney Todd Callender. Thank you, gentlemen.
Such an honor.
Friends, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll remind you every single day for free, we try really hard to bring you the real news, the antidote to corporate propaganda at sgtreport.com. Tune in there 24/7 to get that antidote to the Mockingbird mainstream media lies. And until next time, may God bless you and yours. Semper Fi, friends. Bye-bye.
Beautiful.
I mean, it's a trap, and it's, I've been saying, I feel and I know this is the biggest sting operation in history. We're talking about millions of satanic pedophiles that need to be rounded up. And But when I say those words, I know there's people that watch this will go, God, this guy's nuts, because of course satanic pedophiles don't run the world. Well, yes, they do. And they've had to be, the people have to see it.